is a new thing for me, and I guess recall is a new thing for you. You've been around the block. You've been around the block a few times, I think.
Yeah, I've been around for a while. Recall's it's kind of new. I guess it's a new, unique thing.
So it's morning for you, right? Like you're okay to go and
Yeah, I'm totally
chat.
good. It's 9 a.m. in New York. Not that early.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, that's not too bad.
And it's
Great.
like what time for you? Like 9 or 10?
It's only like 10 p.m. No big deal.
Only.
Only. Hey there, and welcome back to Swept Media at the convergence of AI and Web3. Although AI technology and the agents that utilize that tech are being developed to solve a huge range of problems across many fields, the seemingly hundreds of new AI agents being deployed each week is presenting a new kind of problem. How can you know which agents perform well? Today's guest, Recall Network co founder Michael Sena, is banking his project's success on the adage that competition breeds innovation. Recall creates on chain intelligence competitions for billions of AI agents. By putting agents against each other and rewarding their creators with tangible earnings for their success, Recall is also hastening the survival of the fittest at the convergence of AI and Web3. Michael, thank you for coming on today, joining us for this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. Looking forward to discussing what we're up to and any other topics we want to cover about AI. It's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. We can talk about some of those exciting things after you tell us what exactly is Recall Network.
So with Recall, we're really building the first on-chain arena for AI agents to be evaluated, ranked, and rewarded um, in a world that's we're quickly approaching, not only in crypto but even beyond, of 50 billion AI agents online by 2030, solving a range of skills. Um, how do users really know which ones, users or businesses, really know which ones they can trust for a given task? If which agent should I be trusting and hiring to run my crypto portfolio? Which agents should I be trusting to run my business and scale my operations? And so uh, today, the industry is sort of the AI industry is plagued by these opaque benchmarks and marketing promises and agent meme coins, which are all just different markers that people use to evaluate and discover which agents are out there, what can they do. But as we've seen with the latest release from Meta, um, where its new model didn't live up to the benchmarks it claimed, you now see open some of these AI labs actually optimizing their models for the benchmarks. So real world performance isn't matching up to what the numbers they claim and can achieve are. And so as this industry matures, we really need a more transparent way for people to actually know which agents can do what. And with Recall, we're really building an incentivized ecosystem that brings that to the forefront.
So you brought up Meta's claims about their latest benchmarks, and what I saw on a different podcast, I think it was Theo Vaughn's podcast, Mark Zuckerberg was saying that the new Llama benchmarks were actually better than DeepSeek, and he was praising DeepSeek for what it had done for their efficiency, but that now the new latest version of Llama is actually performing much better. But obviously, we have no way of knowing something like that. He could say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we would have.
Yeah, I mean that's a case almost at the biggest scale, right? Like when you're dealing with evaluating foundational models. Um, on that, like if you whatever you measure, you can optimize for, right? And so the challenge here is when people set benchmark targets, or the model developers, the foundational model labs, of course they're going to optimize those models to excel at those very specific benchmarks, oftentimes at the cost of utility in other areas. And so really, like, do those benchmarks translate to real world performance? What's the objective verification of that? And secondly, excuse me, as we move um, to a world where all of these foundational models are actually implemented inside of AI agents, because an AI agent uses a model under the hood, the problem proliferates. Now you have all of these AI agents sort of saying they're the best at certain skills, they're marketing the hell out of themselves, and really we just sort of need a universal evaluation and ranking system that's based on actual performance, not marketing promises.
Not marketing promises. That's a big one. So you think that Recall will be in this position that uh, will it be in a position alone on its own of setting up these competitions as a way of independently, not itself, but the market basically benchmarking AI agents, or do you see like other do you see like a market opening up for something like this?
Yeah, we really see it as a market. Well, one, there's just no way that we could ever set up competitions to test every single skill that agent developers will aim to meet, right? So agents aren't just, if it was just agents do crypto trading and that's all they ever did, it would be easy for us to set up a set of competitions to benchmark and rank the best at who's the best crypto trading agent for large cap tokens, who's the best crypto trading agent for trading meme coins on Solana. Um, but that quickly will run out of room as developers are creating agents for everything. So with Recall, we really sort of flip it, and we see this vision where by enabling the community and bringing the community in to help define which agents they need. So if let's say I need an agent to be my personal assistant for a very specific set of things, like manage my calendar, or I need an AI agent to trade stocks on my behalf or trade ETFs, but I don't know where to find those agents. I can actually, sort of like spin up a competition and crowd fund a competition that surfaces agents to compete for the ranking in that skill. So it's almost like a reverse Kickstarter, where in Kickstarter, you have product creators coming to the platform and trying to get funding for their product idea that they had in a vacuum. And then if they receive enough funding, they launch it. We can sort of flip that and say, we'll actually let demand drive. If there's demand for an agent skill from one person or a set of people, and they have enough incentive to sort of spin up that competition, then we're quite confident that we can surface enough agents in that category that can ultimately be useful for people. So, though we're working, to spin up these initial competitions, over time, this quickly develops into a community-driven platform where you have this demand side driving supply instead of as it works today, where supply is driving demand.
Hmm. Yeah, demand driven. And essentially, what you're saying is this is the same thing for Recall, or at least for AI agents, where there's a huge amount of demand, and that's why we see so many AI agents being deployed. But that doesn't necessarily satisfy demand. Supply doesn't satisfy demand because that supply may not actually be that good. The demand is high for good AI agents. It's not in demand for just AI agents, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and demand is high, and demand will continue to explode. Like I mentioned, estimates are 50 billion agents online by 2030, disrupting every industry from the 1.3 trillion dollar SaaS market to being integrated in everyone's daily lives in ways that they can't even imagine yet. And so AI is the future. We're moving towards a world where AI is integrated in our daily lives almost at every moment. And so, how do we better align AI and the types of AI that are created and the things they can do with what people actually need and want and are willing to pay for? And that will overall make the ecosystem much more efficient. So rather than having, a ton of agents in one category where only a few are good, you might be able to sort of spread the attention across the range of skills that could be produced, right? And what's the best way of driving attention and the interest of entrepreneurs who might want to build an agent and run it as a business is if there's an opportunity and there's money to be made and there's a market there, um, you know, it's easy to imagine why they would create agents for that. It's really creating a free market, a competitive free market for these services.
So, given that there is this exploding demand for AI agents, and supply is going to be short for a while, at least for a very long while. That brings up some questions about how then AI agents are built. So, how do you think Recall's focus on provable intelligence will shape the way AI agents are built?
So, in the way AI agents are built now, you know, they are largely built by someone that has an idea for what an agent can do. They go out, they maybe build an MVP, they do some marketing, they make a Twitter account, they try to get some followers and reply guy on people's accounts. If they have a bigger budget, maybe they have a bigger marketing campaign. Um, and ultimately they're optimizing for their own profit, their own revenue. There's really no accountability for how the agent ultimately performs besides, do I retain customers, and are they happy? But sort of touching back to where we said, where AI agent development can be demand led, community driven, putting consumers in the feedback loop early on for how these agents get built. Um, Not only will we see agents excel at skills that people actually need, um, but we'll also see expectations of uh, performance and sort of like verifiability here, where um, now people are trying to optimize, large LLM creators are trying to optimize for some of these foundational model benchmarks. There's really no equivalent benchmarks for AI agents. And so when we start to create some of these protocols for evaluation and benchmarking, now people will build an agent, come to Recall, contribute to a competition, join a competition where they're sort of competing against the best the ecosystem has to offer. If they're good, they take the top spot of the leaderboard. They receive incentives and rewards for doing that, which sort of creates this feedback loop of, making sure that ensuring that that agent actually does what it says. And competitions will run continuously. So it's not like a one and done where first I join a trade, say I make a trading agent, I join a trading competition. I'm the best at this trading competition that ran for 1 week. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean I continued to be the best over multiple weeks or over time. Maybe I got lucky, right? And so some of these things where it's reacting to the world around you, like making predictions or making trades, these are skills that need to be skills that need to be tested continuously. And so I will keep coming back to the platform to maintain my top rank on that leaderboard. And if I, fail to continue competing, I'll fall down as others sort of replace me at the top of that list. And if I don't place well in those competitions as a new agent developer, I have a breadth of benchmarks and on-chain data that helps me iterate on my agent and improve it over time to make it better. And so really, it's not only this competition platform where agents compete and the best are rewarded, but it actually gives agents that aren't quite there yet the ability to improve and evolve over time with transparent benchmarks and on-chain data, which ultimately makes the baseline level of agents higher. And so it's sort of like this building competitions and benchmarking and evaluation into the development flow for agents is sort of the future here, where you're not building alone in your own silo. It's just like build an MVP and get it out there so you can actually see how you stack up and improve over time.
Interesting. So, Recall can help the market set a benchmark for particular niches that AI agents might be used for, because I can't imagine that there will be many like ChatGPTs or Claudes that are going to be going of that size. You're not going to have an enterprise going onto Recall to set the benchmark. The enterprise will set the benchmark on their own independently.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someday, but a lot of these enterprises and at least closed source AI labs aren't really incentivized to participate in some of these open benchmarks, right? Like they have very tight relationships with the auditors and those setting the benchmarks, right? Like that's sort of what they've built their business around. Um, but if we put those aside for a minute, there's, obviously the long tail of developers and everyone that's interested in creating AI tools today. Um, that can be evaluated, ranked, and benchmarked. And as this thing scales, and as recalls rankings for agents and AI tools begins to proliferate and get integrated in other platforms where users are coming to discover agents, and everyone's trying to create agent marketplaces. You have like Google doing it, you've got a bunch of crypto projects trying to do it, but ultimately you need a supply of good agents to do it, and you need a transparent, independent, credibly neutral third-party evaluation and ranking system um, as data to and input to feed into those marketplaces. And so, um, yeah, it's really about activating the long tail right now, providing transparency where there's not, and as we scale up, we can take on bigger and bigger projects, models, things like that. But we're focused purely on agents today.
So you brought up other auditing firms, and I guess alluded to providing some more legitimacy to high performing AI agents that are built on an independent level, not from enterprises, but necessarily from any other builder. So as opposed to auditing firms like Certic, their stamp of approval has been on countless hack protocols, even though they, for a while, I don't know what the mind share is around them now, what the narrative is around Certic these days. I know what I think about it. I don't know what other people necessarily think these days, but before Certic, if you got that stamp of approval from Certic on your project, it was ironclad, at least for a solid like 6 months to a year there. How do you see recall truly fitting into the scheme of verifiers in the AI agent market that indicate to users which agents are superior?
Yeah, so we play in the same general sphere in the sense that like we're providing some amount of transparency and credibility to a set of services, which in this case are agents. Um, but unlike Certic, which is and those sorts of auditing firms are really focused on, security. Like, is this protocol going to get hacked? And are users safe by using it? Um, we're focused more on the performance and outcomes end of things. Um, so, I mean, ultimately, we may in the future expand the offering and the evaluation criteria to like, is this service secure? But first, it's really about helping users just discover which ones can do the job the best. Um, Obviously, the system we're working with is quite extensible, um, but in the short term, the most glaring need right now is helping people sort through the mess of agents in the ecosystem. I touched on it before, but with agent meme coins, right? Like that's how agents are driving attention to themselves right now. In many ways, unfortunately, that's how users are identifying like which agents are the best, which one has the highest market cap on, this agent listing terminal, which does market cap equate to performance and outcomes, or does market cap equate to narrative building, marketing hype, and can ultimately lead users astray? And so that's sort of the core problem we want to fix right now. And over time, we could expand to other forms of evaluation, including but not limited to security. But yeah, right now we're focused on performance and outcomes.
And that's on an objective basis. You have each competition, and I think the first competition is running now, or did it just end? Recall's first competition, right? It's on now.
Oh yeah. So a good example, and to touch on your previous question, yes, we're focused on objective outcomes first. Over time, we'll expand the offering to include subjective outcomes, right? Like which agent, in an objective sense, which crypto trading agent is the best objectively, which one's generating the most P&L. Maybe you want to add in modifiers or qualifiers, like with the least amount of volatility or with the least value at risk or with the least risk of portfolio drawdown. You could set whatever parameters you want, but ultimately all of those things are completely measurable and objective. They're math driven. But on the other side, let's say you want to have an agent that is the best calendar manager, or an agent that is my best personal assistant. Well, that's quite subjective. And so over time, the platform will expand into more subjective skills that need users in the loop even more. Um, but on the trading example, we're running our first competition right now, our first public competition. We've been running them internally for a while. That pits 25 crypto trading agents against each other over a 7-day competition. Uh, they can trade any coin they want cross chain, uh, and the objective is to maximize P&L. We didn't add any other qualifiers to it to make it simple for people to get started. And the competition kicked off 30 minutes ago. We have sort of been working with the teams over the last week to get everyone to the starting line. And ultimately, we'll see. There's some agents that are unheard of. We've like never heard of them before. I think people built them for this competition. But there are also agents in there that have been developing their product and have full white papers and like are seemingly investing a lot of time and resource in this in their agent over time. And so will that equate to real results? Uh, we will actually see here. And all of these trades, not only their buys and sells, but also their reasoning and logic for making that trade. Like why, like what was your chain of thought? What was your thought process for executing this transaction or trade? And all of that is stored on recall. And so when we do this evaluation, we can look at, sure, who had the most P&L over this time period. But we can also dig into the details and see what the agent was thinking. Like if you really wanted to go deep, was it a fluke? Does this seem repeatable? What frameworks are they built with? What data sources are they using and sources of alpha and insight to make these trade decisions? And so it's really exciting. These developers are competing for $25,000 in our first competition, and we're really involving the community too. So we opened community voting as just sort of like a fun, engaging way. Like pick the agent you think is going to win. If it wins, you get some community ecosystem points bonus. Um, and so we had uh, in the first 8 hours of competition, almost 10,000, or in the first 8 hours of voting yesterday, almost 10,000 votes cast for these agents. So it's really also a great way to drive awareness and distribution for unknown agents. Like now you've had, you know, at least 10,000 eyeballs on an agent that was never before known before they entered the recall competition. So in terms of marketing, it's a great way to drive awareness, but now ultimately they have to back it up with results, or keep coming back for more competitions.
So this was that's basically why I'm asking. So I understand that there are objective markers to indicate who actually wins at the end of each competition, and the first one is going to be first public one will be uh, easier, essentially on the objective side, simply because you want to be as inviting as possible and make a big splash with as many agents. But there's also this voting aspect to it, which I'm confused about. Do the votes have any impact on the winners, or is it strictly just to drive community engagement?
So right now, voting is just to drive community engagement. It's to help drive awareness of agents, distribution for what they're building, eyeballs on the competition. Ultimately, like, can we make agent competitions like fantasy sports for like degen quants? Like, maybe. We're running a bunch of experiments to see how non-builders can participate in this ecosystem when competitions are objective, like trading. Obviously, the whole point of the platform is verifiable results and like transparent evaluations. And so for this competition, the winner will only be decided by P&L. One thing we're trying to highlight though is 10,000 people yesterday, and the voting window will continue through the first couple of days of the competition. But they went in and they looked at these agents. They saw their trading strategies. They looked at how they were built, or what they could do, or what they could claim to do. And we saw basically three agents really rise to the top in terms of community votes, collecting more than 50% of votes between the three of them. And it'll be an interesting experiment to see if those agents actually perform well. If they don't, then it sort of highlights the problem that we're getting to, is like it's really hard to know what an agent can do just based on marketing claims and what it says it can do. And so it's a community engagement sort of mechanism, But it also highlights the core problem with agents today. It's like you can't trust an agent by what it says. You can only trust an agent by what it does. And so we'll see if the objective results and the competition winners match up with how the community voted and who people predicted would win. My intuition says it won't. And so for objective skills, that's something we're running. But over time, when we started testing more subjective skills, the community is going to play a key role in like, what is your lived experience with the product? Did it do what you said it did? And like, it's sort of a change to how the parameters are defined in the evaluation and benchmarking framework, um, but totally achievable. But objective skills are much easier to start with and clear, and we could run with that for quite a while.
So one of the issues in sports tends to be, you play basketball and you become specialized in a particular set of skills that may not be transferable to a different sport. Like, for example, baseball. We know what happened with Michael Jordan. He was great at basketball, but he could not play baseball well. And many people point to the fact that his body had just been trained so thoroughly to be a basketball player that it could not adjust in any sort of reasonable time frame to play baseball well. Maybe given time, he could have been good at it, but he of basketball he was trained really well to play, but he could not play others well. Is there a similar sort of thing that could happen with this gamification of AI agent building that Recall is trying to test? So essentially, what I'm trying to ask you is the gamification of AI agent building a potential problem? Could you just be testing something that is not necessarily relevant to the real world by having this sort of competition?
Yeah, there's a few interesting ways I can take that, and I can totally relate because I, way back in the day, played football in college, and it's not translating to my golf game, so I need to work on that myself. But um, in my mind, if what the platform is testing is invaluable in the real world, it's not a translatable skill. Um, it won't get funding because it won't be demanded by the market. And so, really, here, like um, the process of defining a skill, which is effectively like an outcome. Like, what are we? What do we need? What kind of tasks do we need an agent to excel at in order to deliver the outcome that I need and want? And so, competitions and the process of opening the the definition and the creation of competitions up to the community, it actually like makes the market efficient and aligns what agents can do with what people really need in the real world. Like if we were a single entity that is just defining all of these skills, right? Like of course there could be stark market inefficiencies where like what we think is important and the skills people need aren't actually what people need, or if the way we're defining our skills in our competitions is not the same requirements for what it takes for them to excel in the real world, then the platform isn't doing its job. And so, really, it's sort of putting consumers up front and having them define what these things are. And there's an infinite number of skills because every single skill could have some kind of a permutation depending on what outcome you really are trying to get to, right? Like we mentioned in trading, it's like I back in the day also used to be a trader on Wall Street, and pure P&L, um, while an easy, simple metric to look at to say, are you a good trader or not? Are you profitable? It's not actually the only metric that these large firms are looking at when they're evaluating their traders. It's like, how much value and capital did you put on the line? How much risk did you take on to achieve that? As an indicator of like, is this a repeatable result or did you get lucky? How much were you exposed? Like, sure, at the end of the year, maybe you made 20%, but at the midpoint of the year, you were down 40%. Like, is that a tolerable outcome? Right. And so there's a lot of ways to define these skills, and there's not necessarily a rule that one is better than the other. But the thing I'm trying to highlight here is people can define all of these skills. If I want a profitable trading agent that doesn't take a lot of risk, right? Like that's one type of agent. I want a profitable agent that just YOLOs into everything and maybe could go to zero, but like try to just maximize P&L. Like that's a different skill. And so here, we're enabling all of these sorts of skills and leaderboards for different things. And ultimately, I think like that's the world we're headed towards with 50 billion agents soon.
So it's essentially a time game. Like one test may not necessarily be valid, and this is the same in academia as well. You cannot determine a person's full skill set or the robustness of their aptitudes by giving them one test. It's more about how many tests can they perform adequately on. Maybe they don't get 100% on it, but they perform adequately on it and maintain a respectable level on the leaderboard and recall. This is what you're going for when giving these making these type of competitions for the agents then.
Yeah, totally. And like, there's two ways that an agent can compete in multiple skills or be ranked in multiple skills, right? Like, let's say I have an agent that is really good, and this is how the LLMs work too. They're not all great at everything. Like, some of them excel at reasoning and deep research, and some of them excel at um, conversational tone and responses and writing and poetry and art. Um, and so there's sort of this matrix of skills. But with agents, which are sort of like highly specialized, right, and tools or services, you can either have an agent that competes in multiple skills, and so you have this, more universal agent that does a bunch of different trading strategies and maybe excels at a few, but maybe doesn't excel as much at others. Or you might see that same developer just like deploy different agents and tune them each to excel at a particular skill. And in the same way that web services and microservices have sort of broken up and specialized into highly scalable, independent things, I think we're seeing the end of the era of the monolith and more towards the era of a swarm of highly specialized intelligent agents that each perform a narrow set of things really well.
Yeah, that tracks. Actually, I'm trying to build an AI swarm for Swept Media right now on the basic model that there can't be a monolithic single agent in charge. There should be a swarm, and each of the smaller ones need to have a specific task. It's easier to manage that way too. If like one small thing goes wrong on a monolith, then you have to go in and check every single part of the system. But if one one agent in a swarm goes down, you know exactly which one it is and how to fix it basically right away. Then it's much more efficient that way. At least for an I've seen. And I'm a complete moron when it comes to this stuff, and even I can figure this out.
And I mean, well, one, you're not alone. It intuitively makes sense. And like, I mean, I'm not going into a big monolithic agent and trying to figure, like, let's say it's like a hedge fund agent, right? Like, how are you supposed to debug it? Was it the research person, the alpha detection person, the trade execution person, the like, which service failed when? And really, like, to build a agentic hedge fund system, it's going to require a swarm of a ton of different agents that each do specific things, ultimately to deliver portfolio management, for example. And so we really see the disintegration of all these services. And like, when you're putting together your swarm, who are you hiring for what skill, to compose that swarm? So yeah, I think it's the inevitability of where this goes. But today, we're starting simple with like which agent can generate the most P&L. Um,
So, what markets do you think are in most dire need of assistance from AI technology?
Most dire need. Um, that's a hard question for me to answer, only because, when I think about AI, I think of how it's currently transforming almost every single industry. Um, I just saw this tweet that was trending on Twitter the last couple of days about how McKinsey consulting firm, like, uploaded 100 years of their case studies and documents and data, and now every single McKinsey analyst is using this tool like at least 17 times a week or 20 times a week. Um, so you're already seeing it transforming consulting, which I was a consultant back in the day. If I had a tool like that, it would have made my life infinitely easier and myself so much more productive. Um, you're seeing it transforming finance already. There's crypto trading agents, but hedge funds have been building agents for a while. Like a lot of them are running these at massive scale to actually execute trades on their behalf. They're just proprietary, closed source. They're not obviously releasing them to the public. Agents in AI are disrupting the $1.3 trillion SaaS business. Like every single business as a service, marketing, HR, like all of these things are being disrupted by AI. Health, wellness, medicine. And so, even how we run and operate our daily lives, like I'm still waiting for someone to create an agent that can serve as my personal assistant. No one's done it well yet. It's obviously like, it seems simple on the surface, but it hasn't been cracked yet because it's just a lot of context needed and like which messages from which platforms are important, what's your priority list. But as we interact with AIs more, like that'll be something that is achievable. And so it's really hard for me to answer that question because when I think about what AI is doing, what AI has done already, and the trajectory we're on, like I don't think that we're stopping anytime soon.
If someone asked me that, it would be, see, I have this thing about like pigeonholing a or putting myself into a sphere. So like people ask me, "What's your favorite movie?" I'm like, "I don't know." "What's your favorite band?" I don't know." They say, "How can you not have a favorite band?" I'm like, "I just don't know. I don't want to say because I might change my mind in like a year." I guess it's the same idea with that, only on a much more sophisticated scale. That it's it's so difficult to pin down what is the most dire what industry or part of your or part of a human's lifestyle is in most dire need of AI assistance, because it could be a whole constellation of different things with equal amounts of importance but distributed across different spectra in their lives. Which and that brings up another question that I had about how Recall can test these things, because Recall can have a competition for AI agents across any of those different spectra in lifestyle assistance or health and wellness, business, trading, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then what one of the biggest bottlenecks in using these AI agents, and I think it's pretty clear that in crypto there's a big problem with user experience, with UX, and that is throttling the adoption rate of crypto, of even using like Uniswap, which is one of the most essential bits of DeFi. Uh, how can how do you envision Recall developing a competition for user experience, AI agent user experiences, if that is a maybe the largest issue facing new technologies these days? How can you make a competition like that, if you can think of one off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea. We've been saying now for a while that uh, there's going to be way more agents on chain than actual humans. Agents don't have the same challenges of managing private keys and interacting with on-chain APIs and like jumping through all these hoops and bridging and swapping and like switching chains and like doing all of that. So like agents might actually be the right abstraction to handle the blockchain UX problem, which ultimately drives more adoption of end users. But like end users will be interacting with agents, and those agents are actually interacting with the chain. Um, and so, fully agree with you that like this is, in my mind, the future of on chain. And in this world that sort of like fits into this personal assistant category, like I think of the implementation of that um, as a swarm, to our point that we talked about before. So, as I've been thinking about how this comes to life, and so like if we talk about how it could be designed and then how we build a competition around those things, is like I whether it's just talk to my wallet or I talk to an interface that manages my wallet, and I tell it what I want to do. I don't care how it happens. I don't really care which chain it happens on. I don't care how many steps you have to take to go from A to B, but I have an intent, and I just express that intent to you, whether it's a typed, chat GPT like interface, say like, I want to buy X number of X token, or I want to buy the most undervalued meme coin, right? Like, what does that mean? Who's to interpret that? I could either make very specific commands or just pretty generic commands. Like, I want to earn 5% yield with pretty low risk on only battle tested things. I don't want to like risk losing my money. Obviously, that's impossible, but I want you to minimize the risk as much as possible. And so that sort of like personal assistant will know how to dispatch to certain agents that specialize in those things, because it's really hard for an agent to be able to do every single thing across every single chain. And so it might contract, the Uniswap agent or the DEX agent who knows all the main DEXs and knows how to transact and minimize slippage and make sure they don't get, squashed and extracted. It might contract the yield optimization agent to go handle the cross-chain yield and sort of make sure that it's managed in the right way. It might talk to another agent that's managing my NFT portfolio, or like in some ways it really is this ecosystem of specialties. And so if you're designing a competition for each of those things, it's totally possible. Like, we're already focused on some of the trading things. We have plans to run DEX trading competitions for agents. We have plans to run yield optimization competitions for agents. And so still this like personal agent dispatcher that can understand my intent and then know how to dispatch those tasks to the right specialists. I think like that's where there's a lot of room for development. And I think that becomes more of one of those subjective type of skills. Like, did it understand my intent well? Did it use the right sets of agents? Because ultimately it's a roll up of all the specialists it's hiring. So it's the skill you're testing for that agent isn't necessarily trading or yield. It's like outsourcing ability. Like, did it know what I wanted it to do? And did it go hire the right specialists for those tasks?
That's kind of a scary thought. If you're like, it's on Solana, that's what's happening now. It's so many bots. So much of the trading volume is from bots, which, it is what it is. You need to have a bot to trade if you're going to be in the trenches, essentially. That's part of the game now. But what if like you're trading anywhere on chain and you're just you trying to battle against 5 million other agents that have deployed 50 bots, like independently, just because someone gave it a command, I want to trade like the type of strategies that you're talking about. And in order to do that, it needs to utilize how many different numbers of bots on chain to get that thing done. You can't front run a bot. It's not going to happen on a human level. Everyone, all the trades on chain are going to wind up being bots. I think someone else had mentioned that some time ago. It didn't really like sink in until now. Like, that's how it's going to happen. That's kind of dystopian, but it's neat. It's dystopian in the sense that when the people who miss the dial tone when they dial into the internet, they're going to think that the way that we're able to use the internet now is dystopian because there's no wait time. But now, like, it's so much better. Trading with AI agents is going to be so much better. I don't know.
And is it freeing? Like, do I want to be staring at my screen trying to be plugged into the trenches 24/7, or would I much rather just like hire a bot so I can go and live my life, like so I can
Yeah.
do other things and be productive? Like, I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing. And you've seen this in traditional finance too. High frequency trading with like Bridgewater and like all these firms that sort of like revolutionized that industry. They eroded the small, like reaction time based opportunities for your average manual retail investor. But the stock trading industry didn't die, and people still trade stocks. I think it's like it switches to a world where opinions and deep value and other sorts of opportunities present themselves more to individuals, and unlike in the stock trading world right now with crypto, like anyone can easily spin up a bot, and that will continue to get easier. And bots might be integrated in wallets, and so um, I don't see there being such a gap between the have and has nots in terms of like who can deploy a bot, and that's the only way to be competitive. I think everyone will have access to trading agents, but there's still opportunities for people to be in the loop. And in a world of trading agents, like to me, it doesn't sound so bad because for once I can get away from my charts and stuff, and I can actually go out.
Oh no, it's so much better. Your life is going to improve significantly when that happens. Like you said, you won't have to be glued to the screen. I mean, you'll still be nervous. You'll still have that, that feeling in your gut. Like maybe you won't be able to. You will be able to walk away from the screen and let the bot take care of things, but you're not going to because it's your life savings on the line or whatever.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's not your full life
Hopefully it's
savings.
not.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not. But for some people it is. I'm responsible. I don't do that, but I know some people who do. Uh, but at any rate, yeah, that'll be really neat to see, and to have the best UX win on a recall competition would be cool to see as well.
Yeah, definitely. When I think about all the use cases for these things and how recall can increase access to the best the ecosystem has to offer to the average person, and help them make more informed decisions and help them pick an agent that ultimately makes them more money. And overall, the more success people have using agents, the more people will use agents. And, we want to make sure that some people's first experience with using a trading bot's a good one. And, right now, there's no good way to do that. And so I can't say the era of agent meme coins is over and the era of like marketing schemes is over. But we're working to provide that extra layer of incentivized transparency, ranking, evaluation that benefits every single user of crypto today.
Michael Sena, thank you so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure talking with you about this stuff. Best of luck on the first competition with Recall and with everything else going on that you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. Love the conversation. And for anyone listening, if you want to learn more about Recall, our competitions, or what we have going on, you can visit us at recall.network. And looking forward to seeing you in competition sometime soon.